Hello everybody and welcome to Insider's Guide. Today we're continuing our discussion of the expert's paradise, Kirkwood. With Kirkwood there's a lot to talk about, so this Insider's Guide will be split into 4 parts. For this part, I will cover one of the best expert zones in the resort, Chair 6, Cornice Express. If you haven't already, go check out Part A to get some great background on Kirkwood. So with that, let's continue in Insider's Guide to Ski Resorts, Kirkwood. One of the things I love most about Kirkwood is how accessible the extreme terrain is. You can walk 5 minutes to Mountain Village, take either wall or cornice, and be standing on top of terrain that could end your entire season. This ease of accessibility is a double-edged sword, however, as you'll definitely find several inexperienced riders up here where they absolutely don't belong. A quick PSA, please don't even think about riding up either cornice or wall if you're not experienced. These lifts have no easy way down, and even the quote-unquote easiest ways down are very challenging. Pushing your limits is an absolutely integral part of sports, however, there's a difference between risk and recklessness. Kirkwood is a great mountain to work your way up to the caliber of terrain found off of chairs 6 and 10, but make sure you're ready for this terrain before you find yourself up there. One last thing to note is that all of Kirkwood's expert terrain is really poorly marked, so you'll have to memorize which line you're doing. Without further ado, let's dive into the first of many infamous expert zones at The Wood. Chair 6, also known as Cornice Express, is the second of 2 high-speed lifts found at Kirkwood along with Timber Creek Express. Because of the advanced nature of the trails it serves, Chair 6 runs even faster than Timber Creek and is one of the most efficient lifts out there. It takes about 5 minutes to ride up the 1,300 vertical feet, which brings you to the top of world-class advanced and expert terrain. If you're looking for some very fast laps on very demanding terrain, Chair 6 is the place to be. For this part of the guide, we'll start by talking about the terrain directly under the lift, then move to the looker's right, and then to the looker's left. Starting with one of the most iconic and popular groomers at Kirkwood, Zachary is a truly epic run that's an absolute must-do on a visit to Kirkwood. It's one of the steepest groomers out there and maintains this absurd pitch all the way to when it becomes lower Zachary. In the early season, Zachary is initially left ungroomed until it builds the requisite snow base for grooming to become possible. During this period, Zachary builds up a cornice like most of the other runs found off Chair 6. Cornice Express is very windy and exposed, which results in some serious cornice entries being produced, hence the name of the lift. The run is so steep that the snowcats have to be pulled up with a winch in order to properly groom it, at which point the cornice disappears. The drop into this run is steep and intimidating. That, along with the high winds, can make the entrance very daunting. This run is no secret, as pretty much everyone in Kirkwood knows about it. Zachary gets skied off and icy within the first 30 minutes of the day. If you plan to hit Zachary, go here first. Don't worry about doing a warm-up run, since by the time you do, this run would have already been skied out. Zachary is also a big offender when it comes to lower-level riders trying stuff way out of their ability. Yard sales are pretty common here. Lookout Yannick is directly skiers left of Zachary, and you can get here either by taking the Zachary entrance or dropping a small cornice that runs along the entire Chair 6 ridgeline. Lookout Yannick, most of the time, is a long mogul run, one of the few true mogul runs at Kirkwood, although in higher snow years it is occasionally groomed. There's a really fun cliff zone that's found skiers left of Lookout Yannick. This area is marked by a caution cliff sign and has some really fun drops. At the bottom of Lookout Yannick, if you head straight, you'll enter a really playful unnamed gully that goes directly under the Chair 6 lift line. This one's a bit more narrow than the other gullies at Kirkwood, but still a blast. Like Snow Snake Gully, it offers a few really fun rock drops on its walls. You can also entirely skip this gully by taking the 2 Chairs 5 and 6 traverse that leads to Lower Zachary, or by taking Home Run to the groomer Lower Olympic. This part of the traverse is very slightly uphill, so keep your speed. Olympic, in my opinion, is the quintessential tree cut bump run at Kirkwood. It's long, steep, and develops bumps the size of cars. Moving further lookers left of Chair 6, we have the infamous chute Chamois that can be accessed by dropping into Zachary and immediately head skiers left. Chamois is one of the more challenging marked double blacks at Kirkwood, although there are plenty of more extreme unmarked lines. In the early season, Chamois will require a mandatory exit drop. However, this goes away as more snow falls. If you go down Olympic for a bit and then cut skiers left into the trees, you'll come across Oops and Poops, an unmarked gem of a chute in the Chamois area. Oops and Poops involves navigating down a cliff face that filters into a tree-defined chute that's often loaded with great snow. You can also skip the initial face and just ski the lower half by dropping into Chamois and then cutting skiers right into the trees. The Chamois to Oops and Poops combo is one of my favorite runs on the mountain. If you decide not to take Oops and Poops, Chamois will naturally filter into Fireball, a fun little bump run with two different paths that are pretty similar. Although entirely unmarked, the terrain above Chamois is home to some of the gnarliest lines in all of Kirkwood. Patrolman's is the first chute in this area. This line is only skiable in the greatest of snow years as it requires a Cornice drop-in, a mandatory cliff drop in the middle, and an exit straight line that throws you straight into the uneven snow of Chamois. Just lookers right of Patrolman's chute is Upper Chamois, a very intimidating chute. Upper Chamois is a sheer rock face that's only skiable during good snow years. When it is skiable, the chute involves a massive Cornice drop into an incredibly steep face that maintains a 47-degree pitch until it merges with Chamois. Note that to get to both Upper Chamois and Patrolman's, you'll have to take off your skis and walk for about a minute. Don't even think about trying these unless you're very experienced. In between Upper Chamois and Jim's, you'll find Ski School Chute, one of my favorite lines on the mountain. Ski School Chute is a narrow chute that makes you feel like you're skiing through a cave. It's much easier than the runs to the skiers right of it, but still very steep and technical. A little bit skiers right of Ski School Chute is the hardest marked single black diamond run on the mountain, and pretty much anywhere, Jim's. I really have no idea how Jim's is only a single black diamond. Jim's consists of several different lines that require a combination of Cornice drops, cliff drops, and high-speed straight lining. It's arguably more technical than most of the marked double blacks of the resort and shouldn't be attempted unless you're very experienced. Sentinel is probably the easiest way down Chair 6, although it's still quite steep. The traverse to get here is very flat and arduous, but you're rewarded with a very enjoyable groomer. Sentinel, not to be confused with Sentinel Bowl, is not as steep or long as Zachary, but maintains its pitch, has better snow, and is generally less busy. All the runs between Chamois and Sentinel filter onto the fast groomer Stump Run, which is easier than Sentinel but has one very steep section. Stump Run leads back to Jane's Jaunt, which we mentioned in Part A. You can take this all the way to the bottom of 5 and 6. This egress is a bit annoying as it's pretty flat and it cuts through the intermediate runs off Chair 7. Everything left of Sentinel is terrain that I've seldom skied, but I'll do my best to talk about it. From Sentinel, you can traverse very, very far, and this zone can be home to some of the best snow on the mountain. This leftmost area is broken up into 3 bowls: Sentinel Bowl, Palisades Bowl, and Rooter Bowl. It takes years to learn this terrain and the numerous different chutes and runs. Sentinel Bowl requires the least traversing and is home to Rabbit Runs and Lightning, 2 very fun advanced runs. You can get to both of them by traversing under the chutes of Glove Rock. This terrain is extremely varied with several tight glades, open faces, and a few small cliffs here and there. Note that Rabbit Runs filters into a natural halfpipe with very steep walls. You can also access this gully by continuing straight down Sentinel instead of turning right onto Stump Run. These cliffs right below Glove Rock contain several ridiculous unmarked chutes and cliff drops. You'll have to hike a little to get here, which is something I haven't seen too many people do. In between Sentinel and Palisades Bowl is this really cool cave called Cave Rock that you can explore. It's kinda like Kirkwood's version of the ice cave found on the Blackcomb Glacier at Whistler Blackcomb. If you know, you know. Palisades Bowl is the next bowl over and is a bit more wide open than Sentinel Bowl. It features a few more cliff drops and one marked line known as KGF. Jeff's line is the most remote marked run at Kirkwood and the first line in the isolated Rooter Bowl zone. You'll have to traverse really far to get here, but chances are the snow will be very good. All of these zones filter into the Timber Creek base area, which forces you to take Chair 7 back up and then ski Jane's Jaunt back to Mountain Village. Moving lookers left of Chair 6, Monty Wolf and Lost Cabin are 2 of the best advanced high alpine bowls at Kirkwood. There are 2 different approaches to get to these 2 runs. The first way is to take the Zachary entrance and then immediately traverse skiers right. This method is more appropriate for advanced skiers. The slightly spicier entrance is to head left off the lift and go past the Skull and Crossbones Experts Only sign, which denotes all of Kirkwood's most challenging terrain. Going this way will give you access to some very steep entrances that require you to drop a cornice and navigate through some rocks and cliffs. These entrances, informally called Upper Monty Wolf and Upper Lost Cabin, are much more suitable for experts. Monty Wolf is a much more traditional high alpine bowl run that's bumped up most of the year, but can be home to some monstrous powder. Like Lookout Yannick, on high snow years, Monty Wolf can be groomed, but don't count on it being groomed when you visit. Lost Cabin is the more interesting and technical of the 2 runs, as it offers a lot more technical features, including great rock drops. In addition, there is an unmarked gully slightly skiers right of Lost Cabin, known as Lost Cabin Gully. This chute is significantly steeper and tighter than the bowl next to it and is more suitable for experts. Both Lost Cabin and Monty Wolf filter onto Lower Monty Wolf. Everything past Lost Cabin is known as Cornice Side Wagon Wheel Bowl. Wagon Wheel Bowl is located in the heart of the resort and is Kirkwood's signature expert bowl area. The first noteworthy zone to talk about here is the Fingers. These technical chutes can be accessed by skiing Lost Cabin and heading skiers right. All of them require a combination of jump turns, mandatory straight lining, and mandatory drops depending on the snow year. The Fingers make you feel as if you're skiing through a cave and are some of the most unique lines on the mountain. This is also some of the most technical terrain found on the Cornice side of Wagon Wheel Bowl. Just left of the Fingers is Cliff Chute, one of my favorite runs at Kirkwood. Cliff Chute starts off with a very steep Cornice drop-in and involves navigating around several large cliffs as the run's name implies. The lower half of Cliff Chute is also the run out for the Fingers, so skiing Cliff Chute first can be a great way to scope out those lines. Just after Cliff Chute is when the ridge starts sloping uphill. This makes Saddle Chute the last run in Wagon Wheel Bowl you can practically access from Chair 6. Saddle Chute's difficulty can vary tremendously based on the entrance that you take. Right before the ridge starts sloping upwards is a corniced entrance that involves a bit of rock avoidance. A little higher up and you'll come to a series of unmarked entries that require a combination of straight lining and jumping. The most notorious entrance into Saddle Chute is known as Funnel Chute, which is an hourglass-shaped couloir that requires a drop at the end on most snow years. Like all the runs in Wagon Wheel Bowl, both Saddle Chute and Cliff Chute filter into the Drain. The Drain is the largest and widest natural halfpipe at Kirkwood, but also the least interesting as it's typically groomed. It's definitely a nice place to catch your breath, and from the bottom of it you can get back to either Chair 6 or Chair 10 to keep lapping the terrain in Wagon Wheel Bowl. Well, that's about it for the Chair 6 terrain. Go check out parts A, C, and D now, all about the rest of the mountain. As always, please leave any questions down below. Thank you all so much for watching. All my love, I'm out.